Hi guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to diagnose and troubleshoot your John Deere 214 tractor. If your small garden tractor has a K-Series, which these are very, very common, the process for this ought to be very similar. The 214 has a Kohler K321 AQS engine. It's very similar to other Kohler K-Series engines. Let me get into what actually happened with the tractor. Today, I was mowing the yard, business as usual, and I got, I'd say, about a third of the way through, and all of a sudden, it backfired again, and nothing. So I'm like, oh man, catastrophic failure. But I no longer think that's the case. The first thing I did here was I pulled the spark plug and took a look at it. It actually looks all right. Then I got my compression gauge out, and we're going to hook this up and we're going to test for compression to make sure that we don't have a catastrophic ring failure. Now I will say there was no knocking. I was mostly worried about head gasket failure or ring failure. This is a pretty worn out engine and it smokes a lot on startup until it gets warmed up. It wouldn't completely shock me. So let's make sure we've still got compression. Alright, I've got the gauge hooked up here, and I'm going to crank her over. Alright, so you can see we've got about 120 psi, so our compression's alright. Alright, so the next thing we're going to test is we're going to test the spark plug to see if we're actually getting spark. To do this, I've got the spark plug hooked up, and you can see I'm here by the negative battery terminal. That's for a good reason. I've gotten shocked by not grounding the plug before. If you don't actually ground your plug, like so, then that high voltage spark is going to come through the plug wire, and it will find its way into your hand, and through you, and into the ground. So don't do that. Make sure you ground your plug so you don't get shocked. And not only will you get shocked, but if you're turning the engine over, you'll likely get shocked repeatedly. So that's a lot of fun. I'm going to crank the ignition here, and what I'm looking for is to see if there's a small spark in the spark gap, and I don't know if my camera will pick it up, but that's what we're looking for. Alright, we don't have a spark, so now we know we're onto something here. And that actually makes a lot of sense because, like I mentioned, it backfired and it backfired again. So what that's telling me is that we lost ignition suddenly, it was no longer firing, and it threw all that unburnt fuel into the exhaust where it rapidly ignited and exploded, Now what we're going to take a look at is the wiring to the coil. Make sure that none of the wires look chewed on by rodents or burnt or whatever the case may be, or messed with by the previous owner. Not sure what this is. Everything appears to be in order. This wire here goes to the headlights. It's not hooked up, so that's not it. But everything else looks okay. So it may just be that we have a bad coil, although it's kind of odd timing, but who knows how old this thing really is. I want to check the points, which are actually located down in here, so it's not a very easy place to access. So I'm going to go ahead and take off this front grille so that we can get to it easily. This right here is the cap that goes on top of the points. I'm going to remove it. Okay, there's another screw on the bottom. I'm going to need a long screwdriver. Okay, we're going to see if we can see the points arc when I crank it over. So the way this works is there's a small gap right here. This gap opens up momentarily. When this gap opens, it sends a high voltage current through your secondary windings in your coil, through your spark plug wire into your spark plug. That creates your spark. This gap is supposed to be set at 20 thousandths, so we're going to check it. I'm going to turn the motor over by hand so you can see this articulate. There it goes. See, there it closes. And it opens back up. Right now, where it is, it's supposed to be set at 20 thousandths. I'm going to check that with a feeler gauge. Here's my 20 thousandths gauge, and there should be a slight resistance, but it should go in. So it's gone in, and when you pull it back out, there should be a slight drag, and that tells you that it's set properly. It may actually be a little bit too close there. Let's set it. I just feel like there's a little bit too much resistance, and I really am having a hard time getting that feeler gauge to slide into there, and I can see this whole arm move when I do managed to get it in there. To set that width, we have to undo this screw here and insert the feeler gauge, and then we tighten it back. It's pretty straightforward. So we loosen this screw here. So there it's open, and I'm just making sure this is set. Well, I've managed to get the coil finagled out of there. I'm going to go ahead and put the new coil in here, and we'll test it out. The coil has arrived. Uh-oh. That's not what we wanted. Uh-oh. We got a box in a box. A lot easier when you're not one-handed. Alright. Coil. I got the new coil installed here. It's all hooked up. Time for the moment of truth. We will see if when we crank, we have spark. I'm going to ground the plug here, and I'm going to crank it over, and you're going to be looking for a spark right there. Oh, got me. There's a spark though. So that's a win. It's a victory right there. Woo. Hopefully this thing starts up.